Now we can start.
Yes,
Well, it is a pleasure to introduce Professor P.N. Ambarasan from the Physics Department at Periyar University, Salem, India. Professor Ambarasan is an specialist in some broad area of research, and he has a, a unique curriculum vitae. He's been dealing with nano-optics, solar energy, laser and spectroscopy, material science, DFT calculations, and photocatalysis, which is quite broad areas of research. He's very productive and he has a very strong group. And I'm very, very grateful to Professor Ambarasan for his kindness and to I would like to just to say that we are all grateful to you, Professor, and I have had the chance of meeting one of your students, a lovely human being, Chanavas Chayak, and I think the surname is rather complicated for me to pronounce. And so please, I think we are at the right time, so we can start. So please, Professor, now please start with your talk. I'm going
thank
to
you,
share
thank
with
you,
the people, right?
thank you, Professor and the organizer of this webinar series. First of all, I would like to welcome one and all uh, for this webinar series on sophisticated lasers for nuclear waste management. So we are living and also celebrating the more than 60th anniversary of Neyman's massive achievement in concurrence with the International Day of Light. So innovations in connecting light from individual photons to laser beams have revolutioned the world, our society in the limelight because of laser light. So photonics world lives in today will continue to play a key role in shaping our tomorrow society with the most important of lasers. So delivery of the highest energy into the smallest spot on a target within the short duration has been always one of the main goals of laser matter interaction experiment. So here the extreme light infrastructure or the infrastructure facility will afford wide benefits to the society ranging from improvement of oncology treatment, it means cancer treatment, medical imaging, fast electronics, and our understanding of aging nuclear reactor materials to development of new methods of nuclear waste processing. So in this way, that is our objective of this talk is based on the following. What is optics? What is modern optics? How it is developed into quantum optics. So using our laser, how we can tightly focus up light. That means beam shaping technique. Again, the production of extreme light intensity by titanium sapphire sophisticated laser, and also our important technique for this ultra short pulse duration the generation of ultra short pulse duration. That means the highest peak power, roughly 10 power 20 watt per centimeter square. The intensity is 10 power 21 watt per square centimeter. How much of power radiated per unit area? The intensity can be produced because of the optical parametric chipped pulse amplification technique. This is called OPCPA, optical parametric chipped pulse amplification technique. Then using the technique, how we can go for extreme light intensity. With that extreme light laser intensity, we can go for experimental of laser light matter interaction. The matter in terms of nuclear waste. So what are the types of radioactive waste? How it can be recycling and how that can be blasted with extreme light lasers. And also reprocessing of used fuel as per International Atomic Energy Agency. So this nuclear waste management can also be go for treatment and conditioning, storage and disposal. So these are all the, finally I have to conclude it. These are all my objectives of this talk. As we know that the light is nothing but, that is the optics is nothing but study of light and its behavior or the phenomena associated with it. From that, we can go for modern optics. Here in the ultra fast generation of ultra fast pulses can be produced with the criteria based on modern optics. So it encompasses the areas of optical science and the engineering that become popular in the 20th century. So these areas of optical science typically relate to the electromagnetic or quantum properties of light, but do include other topics such as the modern optics, subfield of quantum optics, and also it deals with specifically quantum mechanical properties of light. So quantum optics is not just theoretical. Some modern devices such as lasers have principles of operation that depends on quantum mechanics. Before that, is some of the basic information required for dealing with OPCPA, that is optical parametric chipped pulse amplification. For this technique, many criteria involved, particularly the basic science deals about what is optics, what is the fundamental phenomena associated with this required for our understanding. Here, the optics is nothing but scientific study of light and the phenomena associated with the generation, transmission, and the detections. So the very old field can be classified into three major divisions. One is geometrical optics, wave or physical optics, another one is quantum optics. So it tells about geometrical optics is nothing but the light goes straight. Again, the next generation formulated that it is in the form of waveform. Then the present situation, we are talking about the dual nature of light. Either this one, straight line or waveform, it can be constructed using the quantum optics. So what is the basic foundation of this geometrical optics is, our old theory says that according to the Fermat principle, the ray goes from one place to another, takes minimum time. That is the rectilinear propagation of light. And also that this earlier they have measured from different mountain to another mountain, they torched light and they measured the light in the initial level system. At that time they have found some accuracy towards the speed of light, like 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. That is the roughly approximately we are calling it the speed of light. After that, the law of reflection is nothing but the incident ray equal to the angle of incident ray equal to the angle of reflection, and everything in the same plane. First law. Similarly, Snell's law, that is nothing but laws of refraction. So here, the Snell's law says that the ray goes from rarer to denser medium, it bends towards its normal. According to the optical reversibility, it can also be explained that the ray goes from denser to rarer medium, it bends away from the normal. So these are all the laws about what is geometrical optics. Apart from that, the dispersion is the important role playing for OPCPA. So dispersion is nothing but the white light is passed through the prism, it will be split into constant colors or VGR. So this dispersion may vary from material to material. Suppose if we are considering constructing a grating plus prism, that is called chrism. Grating plus prism is called chrism. Using the chrism, we can go for group delay dispersion. Group delay dispersion. Or you can go for third order dispersion. So such that these are all the development of the field geometrical optics to make the foundation for the subject optics. Again, we switch over to the second one, wave or physical optics. So again, our ancestors thought that the light is not a straight line, it is in the form of wave. So the wave is nothing but electromagnetic wave. So electromagnetic wave is nothing but electric and magnetic vectors perpendicular to the direction of propagations. As we know that, as our Maxwell's equations, everything for electric and magnetic field using the Gauss law, Ampere's law, then Faraday's law. These are all the forming that Maxwell's equations. So this is nothing but the electromagnetic wave is classified according to the increasing order of frequency is nothing but radio waves, microwave, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-ray, gamma rays, and the cosmic rays. These are all the increasing order of frequency of electromagnetic spectrum. Here, this is also traveled through vacuum with the speed of 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second. So these are all the things behind that wave or physical optics. So interference, this effect is important for our many applications, particularly birefringence or whatever it is, double refractions, everything. So interference is nothing but the effect is produced by principle of superposition of waves. So it can be classified into two. One is division of, it can be produced by division of amplitude and a division of wavefront. Division of wavefront example is Young's double slit experiment. Division of amplitude is nothing but the Newton's ring experiment. Again, it can be classified into two. One is constructive interference, another one is destructive interference. So as per our law, light plus light does not give more light because may in certain circumstance gives darkness. This is the law behind it. So here, next one is diffraction. So diffraction is nothing but the bending of light around the corner of the obstacle and the spreading out to the geometrical shadows. Geometrical shadow is nothing but the region away from the direct shade. So it can be classified into two. One is Fresnel diffraction, another one is Fraunhofer diffraction. If it is source and the screens are finite distance, that is called Fresnel diffraction. If the screen or source is at the infinite distance, that is called Fraunhofer diffraction. Again, polarization, this is also important role in our OPCPA technique. Here, the polarization is nothing but the particle vibrations constrained to vibrate in a particular plane is called the polarization. There are different types of polarization, linearly, elliptically, and also azimuthally, even radially we can polarize. So in our laboratory, theoretically, we are beam shaping technique method are adopted, and also many application it is used. So we have many shaping technique are followed. We will discuss one by one later. So then next one is double refraction. Double refraction is nothing but the birefringence. When a light is passed through a monochromatic light is passed through an equal prism, it will be split into two rays. One is ordinary ray, another one is extraordinary ray. So these are all the behavior for what is called NOPA. NOPA is non-collinear parametric amplifications. These are all only because of the double refraction. Then these are all the basic foundation to form the subject for field of physical or wave optics. So next one is quantum optics. Based on that only, both are covering these two subfields. Geometrical optics, wave and physical optics included in the quantum optics, because it has dual nature, both straight line as well as waveform. So these are all the basic foundation to form the subject quantum optics. So for that we need to understand density of states, atomic spectra, energy level, quanta or discrete amount of wave packet, then nano optics. So when you are pass on through that, the brightness known source of light in modern ultra intensity. In our walk of life, we may come across that the ordinary bulb hanging on the rooftop, it is giving only that 300 milliwatt per square centimeter. So this is the bulb emitting from our top roof of our house. It is possible only 300 milliwatt per square centimeter. But in the case of sunlight, light falling on the earth surface is nothing but 140 milliwatt per square centimeter. Similarly, when you are focused helium neon laser is roughly approximately 500 watt per square centimeter. So at the surface of sun, we are getting roughly 11,000 watt per square centimeter. Similarly, roughly 10 power 20 watt per square centimeter is appearing nearing a black hole during the gamma ray burst. For that, where we are going to produce that ultra fast extreme light intensity is possible only by the OPCPA technique. Roughly in the case of 10 power 15 petawatt or 10 power 18 exawatt or 10 power 21 zettawatt or 24 zettawatt. This is also theoretically possible. So here the petawatt chipped pulse amplification laser can emit 10 power 21 watt per square centimeter. So we can go for artificially million times of brighter than sunlight. Million times brighter than sunlight. That is our criteria. So before that, what is laser? Laser can be classified according to the different criteria. The first one is the state of matter of active medium. In the active medium, whether it is solid or liquid or gas, whatever it is, because of the low density active medium or the high density active medium, the intensity will vary. Similarly, the spectral range of the laser wavelength starts from visible, infrared, or IR, whatever it is, according to our requirement, we can tune the wavelength. There are some tunable lasers also available in the market. So the excitation method of the active medium, pumping, optic pumping, and the electric pumping, these are all the pumping methods. Nowadays, in our OPCPA technique, our pumping mechanism is done by another laser that is called neodymium yttrium vanadium oxide. So this laser is pumped by another laser, not like either electrically or optically or chemically or whatever it is, the basic thing we studied in our laser subject. So the characteristics of the radiation emitted from the laser is the important role. So the number of energy levels which participate in the lasing action also important. So from that we can go for in our Periyar University, we are doing lot of work for focusing the focal engineering for nano optics to intensify the light for optimum location within the solar cell fabrication, for that for connecting wires, how the substrate can be removed. These are all produced by some hat beam, which are produced by lasers that will later discuss. So these are all the things we are also doing. Here you see that this is the focal engineering for nano optics to intensify light in the optimum locations. So this is the 3D view of this hat top beam. So here this is the contour. When you can see this one in the another contour diagram. This is also 2D view of this hat top beam. So the square top hat size and the correspondingly working distance can be changed by placing extra lens or objective behind beam shaping lens. So this it is depending upon the square size and the working distance versus focal length of the additional lens or objectives. So here also the generation of tightly focused light for various polarized beams using different optical elements with a small spot size and long depth of focus can be widely used in applications such as high density data optical storage, biomedical engineering, laser drilling, and machining. So using the changing the depth of focus, we can nowadays store the data on the compact disc CDs both sides by varying the depth of focus. That is the achievement used in the. Then only we can go for high density data optical storage. This is also important factor. So various beam shaping technique are proposed for nanoscale applications such as multiple optical trapping or optical manipulation. So even we can lift the particle or the what is that, whatever it is in the material science it is used. So optical micro machining and photolithography with the conditions of smallest spot size and the largest depth of focus. So it is powerful tool to investigate the forces and motions associated with biological molecules and enzymatic activity. For that, we are using some faceplate or filters, even what is called Axicon. Axicon is nothing but axially conical shaped lens. So using that Axicon, we can go for varying the depth of focus and making the spot size smaller, smallest in the nanoscale level. So these are all the things. So how we can going to generate ultra fast pulses. So which are the shortest event ever. So in optics, an ultra short pulse of light is an electromagnetic pulse whose time duration is on the order of 10 power minus 15 seconds. Indeed, pulse duration on the attasecond time scale have also been reported into 10 power minus 18 attasecond. So this type of short pulse, the amplitude and the intensity of the Gaussian shape. And most probably we are using the Gaussian beam into like Bessel beam or Lager beam or whatever it is. And Bessel beam is nothing but diffraction free beam. Theoretically it is possible, but experimentally we can minimize the diffraction to increase the sharpen the spot size or increase that is reducing the spot size and increasing the intensity or whatever it is as per our requirement. Here the phase function is quadratic, resulting in an instantaneous frequency sometimes called chirp. Why? There is some new connections. No, sir, may I continue? May I continue?
Yes, please go ahead.
Audible?
I mean,
Hear my voice? Can you hear my voice?
yes, very well indeed. I see your face as well.
Okay, okay, okay.
You look very well, my friend. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, thank you. Okay, let's see. Awesome. See here, the important thing is titanium sapphire laser.
You have to share the screen, eh?
Yes. Huh? Sharing or not?
No, no, no at the moment. You, do share the screen, please.
It's not sharing now.
The screen.
So my system showing that PPT.
Uh, your presentation is not
Suddenly it is
on.
disappeared. At the moment it is disappeared or long time I couldn't view my screen.
Check, please.
May I go for once again from
Yeah, you can start again.
now?
No yet. Take it easy.
Okay, okay. Share
Don't
screen.
you worry. It's
Earlier.
You will go out of that and then reshare again.
Yes, 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 certainly. Okay. Huh? Okay. இன்னும் பண்ணணும். Share, okay.
we are back, my friend.
Yes, yes.
Now we are
Is it?
back.
Yes?
Yes,
We are back.
yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you for pointing out this small disturbance occurring from our side. Right? Right. So this is the laser, titanium sapphire laser, which is also excited by another laser because of relatively low gain. So this low gain is nothing but roughly 2 to 3 10 power minus 19 per centimeter. It's a result of such a broad band can be obtained. So it has a relatively short upper straight lifetime of 3.2 microsecond, and the peak absorption value nearing 500 nanometer. This is the next one. This is the energy splitting of this one. So this is the absorption process taking place. So that the peak only at the 500 nanometer. In the emission, it takes the average values of 800 nanometer. This one is peak at 500 nanometer, the tunable range. So here the pumping taking that taking place at 500 nanometer, then lacing action at 800 nanometer. These are all the energy level diagram of TI3 plus ion. So what are the applications of titanium sapphire laser? Here it can be produced high generation, high harmonic generations, and also it is used in the attasecond laser pulse. Theoretically, they have proved many possibilities of attasecond. They have also tried to take snapshot of this attasecond pulse. So it is also used the tracing and the steering the motion of electrons in the atomic scale. So as per our title, it is also used in the laser matter interaction at roughly 200 petawatt radiological issues in the medical field or in the cancer oncology treatment at the interaction of laser matter interaction at under 200 petawatt. So it is also having high repetition rate. So it tends to OPC2, that is optical parametric shift pulse amplifications. So it can also be used for gamma ray induced fission. So the cross section of gamma proton reactions and other many applications such as this is also used for radioactive isotopes induced PET isotopes. So these are all the things. So how this short seed pulse can be energetically produced or generated to extreme light intensity. This is our professor Gerard Mourou. He is from France. He got Nobel Prize for the year 2018 in physics for generating the high intensity ultra-short optical pulse. This is Professor Donald Dio Strickland, the student of Professor Gerard Mauro. Now he is working as a professor in the law, and both are shared that Nobel Prize in the year 2018 for that. The technique is called OPCP. The principle is called tipped pulse amplification. This is nothing but, this is the one oscillator. This is the titanium sapphire oscillator. It is pumped by another laser. So the seed pulse is stretched like that. So they are making that time delay, and spatially and temporarily they have changed this shape into seed pulse into this type of stretched level. Again, they have amplified because they cannot directly amplify without stretching, because it will damage the amplifier. So that they have stretched the seed pulse to some extent, spatially and temporarily. Then they amplify.
Do it again in the same way as you did before.
Okay.
Accidentally, some button must be pressing. That is why sharing is going on.
From my side, I think from my side.
Yeah, from your side, accidentally you must have pressing something. So you
No,
reload
here,
again the way.
I think here may be some signal problem during the what is called at night time. Here climate is very dull and nearing to dark. So is it
Take it
okay
easy.
now?
Easy.
Again, I have to go for.
Yeah, you reload again and then
Okay.
bring back in that particular slide.
Okay, sir. Again, I will. Is it now?
Yeah, now it is okay.
Is it okay? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing out this.
We're back.
Okay. So this is the thing. What is OPCPA? Here, this is the basic information. Now you can easily understand that what is OPCPA. Here, you see that the ultra-short pulse, the seed pulse is generated from Kerr lens mode locked titanium sapphire, this one, oscillator, pumped by another laser that is called neodymium yttrium vanadium oxide lasers. This one, this short pulse is, the seed pulse is produced by the Kerr lens mode locked titanium sapphire oscillator, pumped with the 3.2 watt power of frequency doubled continuous wave, NdOx, vanadium, yttrium vanadium oxide. So again, what is going on? Again, I will from that one. You see, from that, the pulse produced exhibits 17 femtosecond. This seed pulse is having the duration of 17 femtosecond duration at 800 nanometer with a mean output energy of 6 nanojoule at a repetition rate of 72 megahertz. So I will tell you the one more thing. Another slide we can easily explain. You see here, these are the parts are involved in that technique. This one is oscillator. This one is what is called stretcher. This one is amplifier. This one is compressor. Then extreme light intensity. Now you can see that here the amplifier systems having NOFA, that is non-collinear optical parametric amplification is taking place here by the beta barium borate. That is also one important crystal. So this is also amplified by one NDR Q switch. That means frequency doubled. That means 1064 divided by 2, 532 nanometer wavelength, having that NDR laser. It is also amplified. Again, it is going to focal cell. Then titanium 8 was multi amplifier. Then going that birefringence taking place for that coherency. Again, it is going to compressor, the reverse form of structure. That is the second pair of, there are two types of gratings, reverses the dispersion of the first pair and recompresses. This one is structure. So this one is after that it is resulting one. Again you can see. So this is the thing we can easily understand very well. These pulses are stretched here. You see this is going on through this. So again you see this is the seed pulse having the duration 17 femtoseconds with the lowest energy of 6 nanojoule. Again through this beam splitter it is going to, one is going to spectrometer for analyzing the seed pulse. Again it is going to Faraday's isolator. This is the process only for sending that what is that, certain directions of pulses. So it blocking the reciprocal optical propagation device. This is used for Faraday's isolator. Again, it is going to pulse structure. So this pulse structure is consists of pair of grating and spherical mirrors, which we have discussed earlier. So what is happening? This 6 nanojoule is reduced to 0.6 nanojoule. So this is energetically slow and this seed pulse, and also that the time duration also increased. So automatically the pulse is stretched as much as possible. After that it is going to NOFA, that is beta barium borate crystal for its amplifications. So again this NDR laser also involved here. That is because of this NDR lasers having that frequency doubled. That means 532 nanometer with 350 millijoules. So what is happening after passing through the beam splitter? So 300 millijoule is going directly to the NOFA crystal. The remaining 520 is going to amplify the titanium sapphire amplifier. So again, this is also amplified. Again, this through this NOFA, it is going to beam diagnosis. So we can go for the quality of the beam can be tested through the beam diagnoser. After reaching that focal cell, what is happening here? That focal cell alters the polarization state of light passing through it. Then applied voltage induces birefringence changes in electro-optic beta barium borate crystal. When used in conjunction with the polarizers, these cells can function as a laser Q switches. So what is happening? This Q switches employed in laser cavities for purpose of shortening the pulses, output pulse. So here high-speed electronic drives properly matched to the cell produces best result of short pulse with the compression. After reaching the amplifier, again it is compressed. Then you see that roughly the same pulse duration having that seed pulse range, but how many times it is multiplied the intensity is that the energy is important. Here 6 nanojoule is increased to 35 millijoule. So this is the technique called optical parametric shift pulse amplification designed by the professors, Professor Gerard Mauro and Professor Donadio Strickland. So this is the, again, if you are interested, you can go for using the directly through the beam splitter, we can go for prismatic compressor like a Chrisms and other time delay, group delay dispersion, or third order dispersion, through the autocorrelation method, we can use that the same sequence for many other applications. Here, this is the Nobel Prize winner. So what I said, this is the Arthur Askin, who designed that Axicon. What I said, conically axial shaped the lens is called Axicon. Through that Axicon, we can go for increasing the depth of focus or reducing that spot size. So these are all the manipulation of light he carried out during the year 1986. Then the Professor Mauro from France, he guided her for her PhD. They identified that OPCPA technique. So when you are passing through that one, how the technique is used. Nowadays in that atomic energy, that is International Atomic Energy Agency is given some tabulation dated to this 2018 to 2020. The solid radioactive waste storage is, these are all the very low level wastage. This is low level wastage. This is intermediate level voltage. This is high level wastage. These are all the nuclear wastage in the scenario of the current world. How the number of wastage is stored in the godown, or it is in the storage places. Many storages are wastage or disposal techniques are followed, like underwater and other cover, mountain, everything. There are many methods are used for disposal of this wastage, but the best method is still under consideration, because the high level wastage, roughly 22,000 square meter wastage, is still under purpose of without any disposal, still it is under it is under consideration of making that wastage to be disposed. So here, these are all the things. How during that earlier, the huge earthquake happened in that during the tsunami at the year 2021, March 11. So what happened, that exploded that reactor, many hazards are taking place. Water also contaminated. So, and also that the damage of Fukushima Daiichi power plant explosions. So during the tsunami, so how that wastage can be disposed. So the Nobel laureate like Professor Gerard Mauro and Professor Donna Dio Stickland, they used through the technique and also got Nobel Prize for that. The what invention of process called circuit pulse amplification at the laboratory for laser energetic at the University of Rochester. So they created that ultra fast intensity lasers, which focused on application like laser machining, eye surgery, scientific ideas, and other many applications. So particularly they have the process in nuclear waste. Here, the nuclear waste currently sits in drums in secure facilities across the world, and it will be dangerous for many years to come on matter where we store. So in that case, the most hazardous waste like uranium-235, plutonium-239 have a radioactive half-life of roughly 24,000 years. These materials won't be safe for millions of years. So according to Mauro, it may be possible to turn that waste into something you can hold in hand with the laser. We can, what we call, we can change the isotope from one element to another element. What will happen automatically after changing the plasma condition of this radioactive element? The half-life period also will be changed from many years to minutes. So this one, currently this produces like to transmute nuclear waste into something safe. Mauro, Professor Gerard Mauro says we would need to increase the pulse rate by roughly 10,000
But it's
times.
very difficult.
Using the OPCP technique, it can be increased the ultra fast light intensity roughly to 10 power 8 watt per square centimeter or 10 power 21 or even 24 we can use it. So this might sound like a tall order. This shift pulse amplification itself was an order of magnitude increase over lasers. So this is the Chernobyl disorder. There you can find that it is natural uranium, then whatever it is, many radioactivity elements they identified during the incident, and maximum severity also happened. So international nuclear event scale also they have alarming. So this, so what happened? So what happens to matter irradiate at extreme intensity? So this is the ultra fast extreme light intensity is interacting with that material, or we can say that titanium foil with the proton rich dot or any other nuclear waste can be bombarded with extreme light laser light ultra fast pulses, making that plasma, it looks like a plasma mirror. So the flow of plasma, what is happening, the laser matter interaction giving out the accelerated proton and the hot electron gloves and the target normal quasi-static. So what is happening automatically, this change in the plasma condition after reaching the plasma condition is changed from one isotope to another isotope. Automatically what will happen, this experimental setup for photo fission using the high energy electron from laser wave field. You see that one is also laser matter interaction through the gas jet, the uranium target. So they have, according to the gamma ray spectrum, they have identified that uranium 235, plutonium 92, and the cesium 138 and the iodine 135. So these are all the things they have identified, and also that the uranium fission produces among the other fission fragments like iodine 134 and 92 strontium and 52 minutes and 2.4 hours life respectively, half-life period. Similarly, when fired with 72 times over 71 minutes, corresponding to roughly 1.5 iodine 134 half-life period, and the additional 18 minutes delay was experimented and between the removing and the sample and the continuing process. This emitted gamma spectrum was recorded every 10 minutes for first 1.5 hours and every 20 minutes for the next hour, and finally every 60 minutes for next 7 hours. Therefore, the iodine 134 and strontium 92 fission products were identified using this gamma ray techniques, and also the decays of 0.847, that is the mega electron volt. So this one also respectively 1.384 mega electron volt. So this gamma ray spectra taken from the irradiated uranium target with the extreme light. The signature gamma emission peak of like what is that, iodine 134 having that gamma ray energy of 847 kilo electron volt, and strontium 92 with this 1384 keV decay are shown here. This is that everything is through that gamma ray spectrum they identified. So here the applications such as the extreme irradiations and the applications are very interesting, and also how we can go for relativistic irradiation process. So apart from that, we can go for this laser matter interactions applications extended to many spectroscopic applications, which was subjected to irradiance level much lower than the corresponding binding energy of the electrons. And also here the laser matter interaction is used to observe extreme nonlinear behavior in light matter interactions, and moreover, it is easy to ionize the matter and generate plasma stage. Further, ionize the electron is very strong laser fields. We can irradiance of 10 power 18 watt per square centimeter area, moving according to the theory of special relativity. So the effective mass of the electron increases, irradiance levels above 10 power 18 watt per square centimeter, causing relativistic electron motion is referred to as relativistic irradiance. So the half-lives of the some of these radionucleus can be as short as a few minutes, and it would be great advantage. A new aspect of intense laser pulses focused onto the solid target has recently become a hot topic in our scientific community. So it has been found that by focusing onto the thin solid, a beam of energetic photons can be ejected on the back of the target, what we have displayed in the earlier slides. So these are all my work, how that beam shaping techniques are carried out in our laboratory. So these are all the conclusion is how the nuclear, what are the nuclear waste, like low level wastage, then very low level, and also low level, then intermediate, high level, different types of radioactive waste, how it can be recycled. The same method of laser matter extraction, we can recycle for usage of again that nuclear reactor. Then for that we need to understand what is optics, quantum optics, and how it can be produced the extreme light intensity using the titanium sapphire laser with that optical parametric triple pulse amplification technique. So that the smallest pulse duration or to the highest peak power can be achieved by this OPCPA technique. So when you blast nuclear waste with laser, we can go for changing the one isotope to another isotope. And similarly, we can achieve the half-life period from 1,000 million years to years, or even in the minutes, or even in hours. We can reduce the half-life period for our society-oriented applications. So reproducing, reprocessing of used fuel as per International Atomic Energy Agency, and decommissioning nuclear plants. So based on the recommendations, we go for either it can be the sample can be reproduced or recycled, or it can be making into nuclear waste management systems. So treatment and conditioning, storage and disposal, and funding waste management. There are many funding agencies are providing how to making that disposal of this nuclear waste. So according to Professor Gerard Mauro and his team, like other Professor Donna Dio Strickland, it is possible to turn hazardous waste into something you can hold in your hand with lasers. So nuclear waste currently sits in drums in secure facilities across the world, and it will be dangerous for many years to come, no matter where we store. So the most hazardous waste, uranium-235 and plutonium-235, have a radioactive half-life of about 24,000 years. So this material won't be safe for millions of years. So that it is possible to eradicate or dispose through the laser matter interaction. So these are all the team of researchers working under my guidance. They have completed 24 PhDs, still more working. So this is where I worked in that Department of Optics and Quantum Electronics, Szeged University, Hungary. This is the lab of view of a Department of Optics and Quantum Electronics, Hungary. So this is the myself with the Professor Gerard Mauro at that Transylvania University. I met and also still I maintain the doubts. Everything is arises. So this is myself. This is Gerard Mauro at the conference at extreme light at extreme intensity. LI. So at Transylvania University of Glasgow, Romania. So this is the my funding provided by Indo-Hungarian Education Exchange Program. So thank you very much for your kind patience and listening. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Balasan. And I wonder if someone from the audience would like to ask something to Professor Balasan. Please just go ahead. We still have some time to do so. If not, you are always allowed to.
I can ask many questions.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it came to my topic, fortunately. And first question to Professor is that generally that when we apply the laser on a nuclear waste, there are two reactions possible is there. One is that the laser can be applied for the decontaminating the surface, or
Yes.
laser can be applied to cause some other nuclear transmutation reaction.
Yes,
Okay.
if
the nuclear decontamination taking place, my query is that in that a solid substance will be heat burned and converted into gas. But whether the gaseous, solid substance will be heat burned because of the laser high intensity, and then it will be converted into the gaseous waste. So how you will tackle that gaseous waste further management?
The gaseous means in the form of plasma stage, it will appear like
is it even if it is a plasma state, but sometimes it will be cooling, and during the cooling some amount of high intense radioactive gas will be generated.
Secondary emissions will take place.
So how do you manage that radioactive gas?
Yes, that is need more precautions. For
avoiding such. So it is not that easy. Theoretically, everything is possible, but practically, because I am from the atomic energy department, we have done a lot of experiments. It is exactly not possible for a small surface, maybe that the 1 square millimeter or maybe that the 2-3 square millimeter can be decontaminated, but not very high. And then if you do that, so many drums stored in one place, and trying to do that the radioactive waste management by the laser heating, there is a possibility of criticality. Because when the reaction will take place, some portion of the transmutation will take place, but some portion will be generated by the neutron. And wherever the neutron will generate, there is a possibility of nuclear criticality. Nuclear criticality, if takes place, it will be as good as an atom bomb. How do you manage that?
Yes.
Followed?
Certainly, it is taken into account.
So you can give the message to the Professor Mauro that practically, if they can come out with these 4 containers arranged in a row and avoiding the nuclear criticality, then only it can be proved. Because of the nuclear criticality, worldwide, even IAEA, I have participated in IAEA program also and found that practically it is very difficult to conditioning the laser on that kind of surface. But on the other applications, laser on certain depth, yes, it is possible. For example, eye surgery, depth tissues can be burned. By doing that, for a liver, depth tissues can be burned by the high intense laser. That I am 100% agree. But as far as the radioactivity is concerned, interaction of laser with the radioactive material, a slight confusion, and is not that easy to comment on that. And thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. Certainly, your suggestions and your more knowledge is very useful for my continuation of my research effectively. Again, still I could contact that Hungarian team.
Sure.
Further, your valuable suggestions certainly I will write in the Hungarian team. Thank you very much, Professor.
Okay. Welcome, and take care of the.
I often get advice from you for further my research.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I can always give you the
Thank you,
continuous
thank you.
suggestions and the practical applications too.
Thank you, thank you. Your blessings are more important.
I wonder if somebody else from the audience would like to ask or make some remarks to Professor Barasan. Please go ahead.
Hello, Professor Amberson. I'm Dr. Aisha from Pakistan, and I was listening to your presentation. This is a very, very nice presentation indeed. And since I'm not from your side of physics, I'm from chemistry, and I'm a synthetic chemist. So I was wondering that from basic chemistry that we learn normally, we say that the radioactivity is basically because of the N/P ratio, because the neutron number, the increased number of neutron causes the radioactivity. So don't you physics guys think that controlling the neutron number somehow can deal with the detoxification of the nuclear waste? Is it somehow that you just focus on the neutron number and convert it into protons so that N/P ratio normalizes and the radioactivity is lost? Because the way of subjecting a radio waste to a laser, by common sense, it seems that there will be a lot of other side reactions instead of just burning of the surface of the new radionuclides. So since it's my very basic knowledge, I'm not expert on your field, but I would like if you can comment on the fact that can you just convert the neutron into proton by some way in order to normalize that N/P ratio?
Okay, here the size of the trace element also very, very smaller.
Okay.
So where you are getting from that exploded region, like tsunami and other explosion taking place in the reactor. So it is very, very smallest in shape. For that, we can go for this bombardment of laser with matter.
So
That much.
mhm. Okay, so can you focus on the beta decay process to convert the neutron
Yes,
into proton?
yes,
That's
certainly,
the beta decay
certainly.
process, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to ask Professor Ambarasan? Well, I think Professor Ambarasan,
Yes.
I would like to thank you for your effort, your magnificent presentation. And as I said to you earlier on, before the actual webinar, I'm going to write to you, I hope today. And well, we shall continue working together
Yes,
as everybody
certainly we
here.
continue.
And we are very, very pleased having you with us. And well, this is a family actually. So all we expect is to grow up. That's all. Thank you very much. Please do pass on to your family and beloved people my regard, best wishes, and all the very best to you. And keep in touch with everybody, right?
Certainly, we go for further activities, research activities, effectively.
Well, we shall see in Salem very soon, I hope.
Yes, yes, yes.
Bye,
Thank you
take care.
very much.
Well, I do thank everybody for your attention, and I wish you the very best.
Yeah, it was a very, 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 very nice webinar indeed, Professor Amberson and Professor Roberto. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Take care, Aisha. Do take care.
Thank you, Nandal.
You too.
And
the team should continue to some extent to achieve many more levels.
Professor Data, having a pleasure to see you.
Yeah. It's very pleasure to see you also.
Professor Data, we have to talk about Hollywood one of the days.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. And Professor Rashmi, how are you today?
Fine. How are you? First of all, belated happy birthday.
Yeah. We wish you also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Professor Rashmi started the first work. Very interesting and enjoyed listening the talk.
And Professor Andres Soto, how are you doing, my friend?
Okay. May I stop sharing?
And
Hello, Roberto.
yes, well,
Yeah, yeah.
this is Andres, and this is Professor Ambarasan. Do you know Professor Rashmi?
Yes. First talk you arranged, I enjoyed the talk. Nicely presented by Professor Rashmi.
Yes, yes, I remember that.
I enjoyed.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
The way of presentation is marvelous, very tremendous.
Well,
Thank
my
you.
appreciation and thanks to, and I'm sorry if I cannot pronounce properly the surname, is Arun Kumar Amasi, I think, something.
Yes.
Kalayan, am I right or no, Professor? Kalyan, I think.
Kalyan. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's right. Right.
I'm improving very slowly.
Yeah.
We need about 100 years more. Well, but I'm going to do it. Sebastian, please, my friend, my regard to Susana and to everybody and the kids. And it is a pleasure to see you here again. And I think we also have, well, it was Gonzalo and other people. Professor, thank you very much. And I'm going to send the all the taping to you, and as soon as this is ready, okay? So thank you very much indeed, and we're going to be in touch. Bye-bye to everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
May I stop sharing.
my friend, bye-bye.
Bye
Bye.
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 Yeah. Well, now it's right. Right. Well, okay. Goodbye to everybody. Bye-bye.